which is really what is our mainstream kind of political system actually offering us. They're offering us a choice between armageddon and barbarism, because that's really the difference between Labor and Liberal. And I don't know what it is anymore. It's just not looking very good what they are offering to us. And what they really, when I talk about barbarism and armageddon, I talk about this on two fronts, and that's on the human front, but also on the environmental front. On the human front, they work extremely hard, as Sue already said, to try and pit us against each other and to try and find a way to demonise the people even more vulnerable than me or you. Somebody who comes on a boat in order to want to survive. And that's supposed to be now, in a way, our new enemy. And by trying to use asylum seekers as a kind of, this is the key election issue, it's actually, what they're trying to do is, I guess, work on something fundamental for human existence, which is the unconditional regard for humanity. They want to break down this idea that you and I care for each other, that we have something in common with each other, even though we don't speak each other's language, or have the same colour skin or the same sexuality. They want to break that down, because they know if we all stick together, the world would be a different place. And on the other hand, we have a deafening silence, an absolutely deafening silence around the biggest crisis that has ever faced humanity, which is climate change. And that is just mind-boggling when you think about it. We are living in the critical decade where a lot of scientists have said, unless we really do something now, in this decade, there's a very high chance that we might not be able to stop certain processes in the climate that are going to just do their own thing, and that could have extremely devastating consequences for the survival of the species. Some animals might survive, but Homo sapiens, you and I, people, might not. And I guess I call that criminal. I call that criminal. Justice is criminal of what our leaders are doing to the most vulnerable people in our community. So, for us, for instance, in Socialist Alliance, we don't believe in supporting solutions that are actually not going to fix the problem. So when it comes to climate change, we don't support a carbon price. We don't support the ETS, because we know this is actually only sowing illusions in a system that's actually responsible for the entire crisis in the first place. It's like saying, to put the market in charge of trying to fix the climate, it's like saying, let's put the wolf in charge of looking after the lambs. Hello, it's not going to bloody work, is it? So we are very prepared to talk about the unspeakable, really, in neoliberal times. And that is ownership, community control of resources, workers in charge of industries. That's like the big no-no, but that's exactly what we're putting forward. And this is something that in some ways is making us lots of friends, but it's also making us a lot of enemies. And that's okay, we don't mind that. Because we know, unless we actually start tackling the fundamentals that are actually making life very difficult for us on this planet, we will actually not be able to even talk about a future to the next generation. And I think we owe it to ourselves and the next generation to say, humanity doesn't exist to finish with a very destructive system, capitalism. We can do better than that. Humanity, the idea of progress is always to look forward to something that is better. And that's what we want to do also with this election campaign. Now, Susan also mentioned elections is not the be-all and end-all. We know that. Elections is one way where we can put forward an alternative to a system that's really not working for the majority of people, and certainly not working for the survival of the environment. It gives us some space to put our voice forward, but unless we also build really strong movements on the ground, whatever we do in Parliament has got no meaning whatsoever. So, we really encourage people to be out there in the streets, in your workplaces, at home. Challenge those ideas that are actually completely morally bankrupt. the ideas of privatisation, of neoliberalism, are only working for a tiny, tiny, tiny minority, really. And it's showing. The whole world, in one way or another, is on fire when you think about it. There's massive movements around the globe, you know, for democracy, against imperialism, against war, for gender rights, for environmental justice, and that's really what we are all on about. We are not here to be ruled by some people. We're not here to say, vote for me and then we will fix it for you. What we want to do is actually liberate humanity, to say, no, we don't need some people up there in Parliament that tell us what to do. We all should be capable and are capable of actually deciding what kind of world we want to live in. And we're going to have a big fight on our hands. It's actually a very big fight on our hands. It's the fight for the survival of our species. That's how I look at it. And for that, everybody is needed, and everybody should see themselves welcome in this struggle for the survival of our species. And it's a good fight. It's actually one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I joined, you know, a revolutionary organisation in the early 90s, and it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I've met some of the most beautiful people on this planet, and I've learned so much. And I think really what it does, it actually brings back home that when we look after each other and listen to each other and learn from each other, we are capable of some of the most amazing things. Absolutely amazing things. And I think that's what we want to do. When SBS talks about the world is an amazing place, well, we want to make it even more amazing. And together we can absolutely do that. So I want to really thank you all for coming. We're going to have a beautiful band play. We've also got Ben Solo to do some spoken word. And I hope if you can help out with our election campaign, you're extremely welcome. Any kind of help is very appreciated. And at the end of the day, you know, we're not here to keep the bastards honest. We want to kick the bastards out. And we want to want to kick the bastards out. We actually want to change this system. You know, this system is very anti-human. There's no heart, there's no soul, there's nothing in this. And, you know, we can't go like that. You know, we can't do that. We've got a task, and the task is to fight for the world that is absolutely possible. And, you know, it's really about making the impossible possible. That's our task, and I think together we can do that. So thank you very much for being here tonight.